Avi Meyers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine. Thanks entire technical crew, Sonny Hersh. Join us on the web, ntnm.org, and all CAPS information at caps24.org. We're going to cut right to it. We don't have that much time. There's a lot of developments going on within the neighborhood. It's my pleasure to introduce you to somebody you're very familiar with, neighborhood activist Michael C. Moses. Mike, how you doing?
What's going on?
Well, you tell me. You're the guy in the center of all the news.
Well, I don't know about the center. I was talking to Alderman Stone last week, and we were talking about the $23,000 that he had applied for when we had talked, Alderman Stone and myself, with Laura Healy, who was the chief of staff with Mayor Daley, about getting $23,000 to make plans for improving Devon Avenue. This would just be the first step in receiving hopefully more money for Devon Avenue. And he told me he talked to the chief of staff, Ms. Healy, and it looks like the money will be coming very shortly. When we actually receive the money, then we'll be talking to other community groups and other individuals to see what's the best way to make sure that there's community input as far as the $23,000 that would be used for the landscaping. So it's a slow process, but we're starting the process. Hopefully, we've all heard the good news that the city of Chicago was one of the 4 finalists, I think, for the Olympics.
That's correct.
And if we are chosen next year, hopefully we'll be able to use some of the money we receive from the federal government to help improve Devon Avenue and other areas in the city of Chicago. We're also working on a cricket match with a team made up of members of the Indian community, members of the Pakistani community, get some press on that, and we're looking at hopefully August 10th of this year at Warren Park. That's subject to change. We'll know more in about a week. But this is also in conjunction with the 2016 committee to set this up, and we'll have press, and we're also going to invite the chambers, the 2 or 3 chambers on Devon Avenue, to help us plan this, so hopefully it'll be beneficial not only to the 2016 committee, but also to the members of the chambers of businessmen and women, of course, on Devon Avenue. And we'll have some more information about that maybe in the next week or 2.
Okay, well, not the next week or 2 on the show, because we're going to be doing the Jewish Folk Arts Festival. But speaking of neighborhood groups, now there's neighborhood groups and there's neighborhood groups.
Exactly.
And now let's talk about some of the neighborhood groups. Now, of course, we've had this whole thing with senior citizens buildings. When I went down to edit the show last time, I went down, Walter Burnett was there. He also does a show on CAN TV. And we'd never talked before, but we actually did talk this time. And what was the topic? He couldn't believe people in this area are against a senior citizens building. He can understand them being against all kinds of things, but a senior citizens building, he thought it was absolutely absurd. He couldn't imagine what's going on.
Well, that's a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up. I can understand why some people would be against the senior citizens building, but the thing I'm more concerned about is the factual situation, what happened in this ward as far as community meetings. As you recall, Alderman Stone had a meeting concerning the center, and I guess at the meeting, I was not at that meeting, was decided to help that they would build.
No, wait, let's just be clear, because, there's a field house and there's a building. I was actually talking about the field house with Burnett. Not an apartment building.
We're not talking about apartment building.
Okay.
What Alderman Stone and Mayor Daley's administration and the Chicago Park District wanted to do was build an addition to the field house, and that addition would be built just for seniors, whatever the seniors needed, whether
that would be right in front of where the field house is now.
Right in front, but it would be like exercise or different programs they've done in other parts of the city. And that was the proposal put forth by Alderman Stone.
Recreational activities for senior citizens, year-round.
Year-round, of course. Okay. And Alderman Stone had a meeting, and I guess the meeting they decided to go ahead with the project. After that, the West Rogers Park Community Organization had a meeting, and because they said the first meeting done by Alderman Stone was during the day, there was not enough notice, people didn't have a chance to convey their views. And they wanted to have a public meeting so that the community can make a decision. And they publicized that meeting, as they publicize all their meetings, on the web or to their members or word of mouth, however they do it. And we had about 90 people at the meeting. It was the same meeting where they adopted their bylaws. So there was a lot of people there, and there was discussion whether or not the organization should support the building of the senior citizen recreation hall or building or whatever you wish to call it. They had people come from the YMCA, Council of Jewish Elderly, and a not-for-profit organization, a South Asian not-for-profit organization, and all three of them got up and said, we don't need this center because we provide enough to help the seniors right now in the community. Other people talked. Some people talked against it. Some people talked for it. At the end of the day, there was a vote, and the vote was to approve, to support the building of the Senior Citizen Center at Warren Park. There was also another vote taken. There's a driveway being built to the building or recreation center, and they were saying, could we talk to the city, could the organization talk to the city and perhaps take a few feet off the driveway or as much as possible to have as much green space left as possible in front of the building. People said that's a good idea too. You know, if we can take away from the driveway, which is not used by the seniors, just a question of driving people up and forth from the street to the senior citizen building. And it seemed like a good idea. After the meeting, Zach came up to me and said, well, would you help us with the city to see if they can cut back a few feet here and there? I said, of course. That doesn't really affect the building. You're only talking about the driveway. But, as I stated, the vote was to approve it. Then I was surprised about a few weeks later, a month later, I'm not quite sure, there was a press conference, which I read about in the local community paper, against the Senior Citizen Center. And as I'm reading the article, and I see the West Regis Park Community Organization is opposed. Someone had said to the press, someone had said at the press conference, that the West Regis Park Community Organization was opposed to the building of the Senior Citizen Center, even though we had a meeting which we were supported. And I do not believe there was another meeting, nor do I think it make much difference, of a change of the community organization. Now, whether the other groups who are opposed to the center had a meeting or didn't have a meeting, that's not really my concern. I know I was at a meeting, I know there was a vote taken, and that the people supported the community the senior center. A few weeks later, I ran into Zach Schiffman, who ran the meeting. I said, Zach, what happened? You were at the meeting. I was at the meeting. We voted to support it. And he said that's true. When they told him there was going to be a press conference, he told him about the meeting. Who we told him, not quite sure. And then he said, but we also decided about the driveway. I said, yeah, but Zach, the driveway had nothing to do with the actual building of the Senior Citizen Center. And he said, well, it's kind of like, well, okay, fine. Now, the only reason I'm bringing it up now is, and I should have brought it up sooner, but I was just shocked and surprised because if Alderman Stone or anyone else would have had a meeting and it came out one way, and then they went to the press and said it came out another way, the decision, I can't look at the criticism that would have occurred. And then, of course, we have the other situation going on in the ward.
Yeah, real quick, tell us about that.
Well, that's, we all know that the West Regis Park Community Organization is sending letters to the cable administration concerning this show, and we know Mr. Devlin is...
Yeah, they want to get my show off the air.
They want to get the show off the air, yeah.
Thanks for the publicity, guys, I appreciate it.
Right, and then which is freedom of speech. You want to go tell people not to watch the show or not to be on the show or you don't like the show.
Yeah, you Devlin actually called up and came over here and gave me a list of things. He wants me to go on YouTube and edit these things out of the show. He doesn't like the fact that, and by the way, let's understand that when you talk about how they actually voted for the senior center and then decided, and I've seen the emails too myself, they decided they're against the center. Not to mention all the other wonderful things they do that they do for highly political reasons on so many levels. There's a reason I like to call them creative fascists. They don't really file into the exact definition of what fascism is, although according to Kyle on South Park, they probably would by trying to force people into things that they otherwise want absolutely no part of, whether it's good for them or not. But I like to call them creative fascists in the vein of Jonah Goldberg's liberal fascist book, because they're very creative about what they're trying to force down throats.
Well, let me see. When you told me about Mr. Devlin coming here and saying edit the show, and then it's pretty obvious that he's working together with the West Regis Park Community Organization. there's something wrong here, and they're trying to edit history. They're trying to say what happened didn't happen, and they're trying to pretend that if you said something, you can edit it, and then like it never happened. Now they don't have to watch a show, and they can tell people not to come on the show, and they can talk about the meetings, and they can talk about how Alderman Stone doesn't have public notices.
By the way, Zach and the president, Shurda Thapa, I believe his name is, have been invited on the last 4 shows after complaining they wanted to come on. But they never come on, do they?
No. Well, you were in the show. I believe it.
They were invited.
Okay.
So was Nazy Dollar, and by the way, so was the North Side Alliance, which actually is an Albany Park organization. They've been invited also. And by the way, for those of you who want to know, the person who chaired their last meeting is Nazy Dollar's campaign manager, who is already running for alderman next time. So it's a highly political organization.
I mean, Nazy Dollar is running for
Nazy Dollar, right. And her campaign manager, and if you take a look at the website and take a look at their host organization, the Albany Park Community, whatever it is, Community Network or whatever they call themselves, that's a paid organization. The person quoted in the community paper actually is an employee of the Albany Park organization, not the Northside Alliance, and their issues are basically, let's get lots and lots of low-cost rental housing into this neighborhood.
Well, I just want to make this point really fast. I said I would hope that Mr. Devlin or the West Regis Park Community Organization would come on this show. If you don't like this show, tell Avi why. Tell it in front of the cameras so that Avi has a chance to respond.
And you guys have an open invitation.
And people may decide they like what you say. They may decide to like what Avi says. But one thing, don't try to change history. Don't try to say things that happen one way when they happened another. I'm only speaking up about this now because it just seems to be starting now. And everyone's going to be watching everybody else. There's no problem with that. But just don't say one thing and do another. And that's not the way we do it in the United States of America. That's not the way we do it in the 50th Ward. And I just hope you come on this show. If you don't want to come on this show, that's your right also. But let's just tell the truth. That's all I wanted to tell you. And hopefully you'll be on the show and you can question Avi or you can question me or whatever you want. Avi's a big boy. He can take care of himself. You won't hurt his feelings. But let's just tell the truth.
And I do try to treat people with a certain amount of civility and respect. And but you know what? I feel very flattered that revisionist historians and creative fascists like the West Regis Park Community Organization and you, Devlin, very much want to get rid of me. And I want to thank you very much. And not to mention all the bloggers I'm not going to name. But it makes life more interesting, and thank you very much. At this point, we're going to say goodbye, everybody. I want to thank my entire technical crew, Sonny Hersh. I want to thank my guest, Michael C. Moses. Thanks for the great news about it. Looks like we're going to get a nice study here to see what can be done to spruce up Devon, and join us every single weekday, this time, 24/7 on the Internet. Thanks so much, everybody.